Good morning. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to another XenTegra workshop. I am your host for today. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my camera. I'm Phil Sellers. I am a solutions architect here at XenTegra and appreciate you spending some time with us today. So the workshop for today is Horizon 101. We're going to be learning about VMware Horizon, the desktop delivery system with VMware. And normally with me is our Director of Architecture, Barry Brown. Barry's not able to make it today, so I will be delivering solo, but glad to have you, and hopefully you will get some good nuggets of wisdom out of today's session. So quick agenda, we'll start with some introductions and then a quick overview of who is XenTegra. And then we'll dig into the content of Horizon 101. So real quickly, who is XenTegra? Well, at a very high level, we're a value-added reseller. We were founded by the gentleman on the right. His name is Andy Whiteside. And Andy was a former Citrix sales engineer. And after working with many partners, he decided to set out and create a different kind of value-added reseller. A reseller that really adds some extra things into the ecosystem, to customers, to the vendor partners. He really wanted to do this a little differently. So we are a value-added reseller. We do work a little bit differently, and we'll talk a little more about that. We have strategic consulting services. So one of the things that makes us different, one of the values we try to add, is that we lead with education and advisory services. So we do a lot of assessments, we do a lot of consulting with our customers. And then when you need a tactical project with your team, well, we've got consulting services to be able to come in and help you on a one-off type project and help you get something accomplished. Yeah, if you're looking to augment your staff and your services, we've also got managed services. And our managed services, we like to think of it as co-managed services. So we work with companies that have their own internal IT, and we come alongside of you and help you to manage it to the best of your ability. Maybe that means having 24/7 coverage. Maybe that means having additional hands and folks to be able to rely on while we work with you and your internal team. And like I mentioned, we try to add value. One of the ways we do that is with our complimentary assessments. I think we're up to 16 or maybe more than that different technology assessments based around all the different software partners and hardware partners that we work with. Our focus partners are here at the bottom of the slide. And as you can see, we work across all of the major IT infrastructure providers in the world. So we are a team with about 900 plus years of end user compute experience. We have assembled some of the people who were in the very early days of Citrix, of end user compute, when things were just starting to move to VDI, to app delivery and things of that nature. And so we've got a very deep bench of expertise to call on. We try to leverage that knowledge so that we can help you make the best decisions and accomplish the goals that you have within your company. So XenTegra was born out of the need for customer enablement and true partnership. As I mentioned, we're trying to do something a little different. It may not be the best business in the world, but we really do try to offer the best advice and services that we can, a lot of times for free, to our customers. And in trade, we hope that makes a lifelong customer for us, and that someone sees the value in that and will work with us, choose to work with us for a long time. Some of the ways we add value. We do fun in-person events all around the United States and Canada. We hold at least 1 or 2 events every single week. We do weekly partner spotlights. We do virtual and in-person workshops. All those things can be found at XenTegra.com/events. We also have programs to help you go to conferences. As I said, we value education an awful lot. So if you're looking to go to an industry event, VMware Explore, Microsoft Ignite, we can help you get conference passes to get you to those. And again, our free technology assessments is a great way to get to know us as a company and also provide you something of value at no cost to you. We work with a number of different customers across all sorts of verticals. You can see here from industrial to healthcare to entertainment, and even some of the largest companies in the world. We work across all sorts of different industries. So we bring that information, that experience to everything that we do, and try to make it the best possible solution for you to solve your business dilemma. So again, we're a reseller, we provide services, but more than that, we're a solutions provider, and that's our superpower. We want to be able to not just represent one vendor with you, we want to be able to bring a total solution. And sometimes the total solution encompasses hardware providers, software providers, maybe different types of software solutions. And we're the glue that can help you make all those things work together fluidly with the best possible user experience. We focus in a number of different places. As I said, we were born out of the EUC and digital workspace, so we still have a large focus there. We also have digital services. What does that mean? Well, think of modern applications. So things like ServiceNow and Salesforce, SaaS applications that really drive your business forward and help you get the most out of your business relationships. We also focus on infrastructure and cloud solutions. We have a network practice, a data center practice, and a security practice, all things that definitely are required in order to provide great digital workspace to your users. As I mentioned, we do have consulting services for one-off projects and for very tactical things. We have managed services for a more overarching staff assistance with your organization. And again, we provide advisory services. From a reseller perspective, we can do any type of new product sale. We can do product renewals, so software renewals, maintenance renewals. And generally, we try to add value when we do service your reseller, trying to package in things like conference passes and other benefits for your organization. XenTegra Connect is our managed service group. Across the board, you can see here the different providers that we work with. We have lots of expertise in these technologies. So if you're looking for someone to partner with to help move the needle, we would love an opportunity to get to know you. XenTegra staffing is also an integral part of our business. We work with lots of different technologists who are in different places of their career. And so if you're looking for someone for your organization, we do have resources available to help you find that next great team member. And lastly, one more plug for the free assessments. We've got two different assessments for VMware, one that is vSphere and vSAN focused, and then an additional one for the Horizon EUC environment. Again, these are free of charge. You can go to these web links and get more information, or even send in a request for one of these assessments. It's no cost to you, but it does provide you with a lot of great technical information. So next time you need technology, well, let us help you create a plan. Let us quote. Let us be that competitive quote to your normal service provider. Let's keep them honest. We can also help you with a demo. So if you've got a new technology or a new product that you're looking for, we'll be glad to set up the demo, help you see it, provide lab environments, that sort of thing. And lastly, if you need assistance, we'd love to help you with either our consulting services or managed services to make your project successful. And that's XenTegra. Again, on behalf of the entire team, I want to say thank you for spending time. I realized just now I haven't introduced myself. My name's Phil Sellers. I'm a solutions architect here at XenTegra, and that role encompasses not only pre-sales activities, but also education like today. Um, I do a number of podcasts, including two that are focused on VMware. We've got one called On the Horizon that is EUC focused, and then we've got another called VMware Today. That joins about 12 or 13 other podcasts that we do about different focused technologies. All of those are available on Spotify and Apple podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. But definitely something that we also put out there for free that you can benefit from. So for today, we really want to spend some time getting to know VMware Horizon. And so this is an introductory workshop. We're going to talk about the high-level architecture. We're going to talk about how things work, how to get things configured. And during the webinar, if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat or in the Q&A app. I'll be glad to answer those. Let's keep it interactive. And if you've got places that you want to go deeper or specific questions, please do take yourself off mute, ask, or include them in the chat or the Q&A. So off the top, what is VMware Horizon? Horizon's a platform for managing and delivering virtualized or hosted desktops and applications to end users. So what does that mean? Well, most people in the industry are fairly familiar with Citrix, and Horizon is a chief competitor, a drop-in replacement for Citrix. So Horizon is going to allow you to create and broker connections to Windows virtual desktops, Linux virtual desktops, servers running remote desktop on Windows. And then you can also do hosted applications as well. So application delivery where you don't see the start bar, you don't see all of the tools, you just see an application, which makes it look like it's running natively on your machine while it's actually being delivered from a data center somewhere. In terms of operating system support, we mentioned Linux and Windows. So flavors of Linux you can see across the bottom. You've got Ubuntu, you've got Red Hat, Enterprise Linux, and CentOS, all supported with VMware Horizon. On the right side, you see one of the portals. So this is actually Workspace ONE Access. There's a couple different ways that you can present your applications, and we'll talk about those as we go through the session today. But you can see a screenshot. It's essentially just a launching pad. So you can log into this site with your single sign-on credentials. So, Azure AD, Okta, any one of those things. You get a central page with not only your published applications, but also you could integrate your SaaS applications, things like Microsoft 365 or Salesforce or ServiceNow, and publish those here with icons so that you have a central starting place for your employees. When you click on one of those, it opens either in a browser or in the Horizon client, and then presents the application or desktop, depending on the configuration of the icon. For web applications, SaaS applications, it'll open in a new tab, and you have single sign-on access directly into that application. Now, where can you run Horizon? One of the things that I tell people is that VMware Horizon gives you lots of choices. So traditionally, VMware Horizon has been run in an on-prem data center. Well, there's a lot of things that have changed over the last 5 years in terms of where vSphere can run. So Horizon does run on VMware vSphere, at least the on-prem version does. So that means that not only can you run Horizon on-prem, but you also have your choice of VMware Cloud solutions. So VMware Cloud on AWS, the Azure VMware solution, Google Cloud VMware Engine, and even Oracle's Google Cloud VMware solution. So there are lots of places where Horizon can run and fit depending on your needs. So I know a lot of customers are looking to get out of the co-location game. They no longer want to manage their own data center. VMware gives you that choice and flexibility by providing the vSphere infrastructure in all of these different hyperscale clouds. Not shown on the slide because it's a little bit older, but recently VMware also has a solution with Equinix. If you're not familiar with that company, we partner with Equinix. They are our, I guess, landlord is the best way to say it for our XenTegra data centers. But Equinix is also the landlord for some of these hyperscale cloud providers. Equinix has data center facilities all around the United States and the world, and they're generally really close and well connected to the hyperscale cloud vendors. So if you don't want a fully managed solution like a VMware Cloud on AWS or an AVM or AVS from Azure, you do have the opportunity to work with someone that's close by, like an Equinix. So again, giving you lots and lots of choices. The other thing that's changed in the last few years is desktop as a service. And if you're not familiar with that concept, AWS really came out with this early, and now Azure Virtual Desktop has a ton of buzz in the industry. But AWS Workspaces is a hosted desktop provided by the hyperscale cloud vendors. It is a native service, so it's not running some other software layer. It is something that they provide as a full package to users. And as a result of that, there are now derivative services that Horizon can hook into. So if you're not looking for the full management, maybe you need to have an on-prem data center in your primary region, and you want to use AWS in Europe, you may want to also consume some of their desktop services. So AWS has come out with something called AWS Workspaces Core. This is the desktop portion without the management layer. It integrates directly with VMware Horizon. And so you can use that as your backend desktop services hosted out of an AWS zone. The same thing is true with Azure Virtual Desktops. A lot of people in the industry, when AVD came out, complained that the management layer was very command line centric, took a lot of expertise in order to run and administer AVD. So layering Horizon in front of AVD is a great way to provide a better connection experience for your users because it uses VMware's Blast Extreme protocol. It also allows you to leverage the Azure Virtual Desktops and Windows multi-session, Windows 10 and Windows 11 multi-session capabilities in AVD, something unique to the Azure Virtual Desktops. So again, it works with all of these different products to provide you choice where to run your services and how to best deliver desktops for your individual organization. Off to the right, you also see VMware Horizon Cloud Services. So these are management services hosted by VMware. It's a centralized rolling up point so that you can manage your entire Horizon environment, whether that's in any of these locations on the slide, from that one centralized console. Horizon Cloud Management Services is also a cornerstone of a product in their portfolio called Horizon on Azure. So Horizon on Azure is the cloud management services along with Azure Virtual Desktops for the delivery. So it's a little different service, and it's one that's growing in popularity with the customers that I'm talking with because they can scale up and scale down, paying for only what they consume, and they don't have to maintain expensive infrastructure in order to provide these desktops out to their workforce. Let's talk a little bit about the Horizon architecture. What I will say is whether it's Horizon on-prem or Horizon in the cloud, the architecture is pretty close to one another. So we'll go through designs for both. In terms of the Azure on-prem, the Horizon 8, you've got something here in the middle called the Horizon Connection Server. So the blue circle is the brains of the operation. So the connection server is that thing that provides all of the infrastructure, all of the management out for a Horizon environment. So you install your connection server first. You link it up with your Active Directory so that you're able to do authentication, identify who users are, and also provide entitlements to different resources that you're going to publish inside of VMware Horizon. Now, once you've got the Horizon connection server set up and it's tied to your infrastructure, you've also got a Horizon client. The Horizon client is going to run on your endpoint. And as you can kind of see here in the dark green circle, you've got traditional desktops. It works on laptops. It also works on phones, tablets, and across a variety of different operating systems. So this is not a client that just works in one place. I happen to run it here in my office from Mac OS. It works great from my iPad as well. It's also on my work Windows 11 laptop. It works across platforms so that you can deliver no matter where or what form factor your user is using. Now, in this light green circle at the bottom, you see a Horizon agent, a virtual desktop or a published app. Well, the connection server in the middle knows and manages all of the farm of different Horizon agents. So it's going, as we go through, you'll see it's going to help orchestrate and maintain and workflow updates to these farm of virtual desktops and published apps. But from a connection standpoint, once the Horizon client has authenticated, it's then going to stand up and connect directly to that Horizon agent. So your connection server doesn't sit in line of the connection. It's just used for the basic authentication. And then once that happens, the Horizon client talks directly to the resource that's running the application or desktop that your user is trying to access. So that's an internal connection. So this is a user sitting inside of your corporate network, already connected. So that's the way the traffic is routed here. For an external connection, we add a layer, and it's called a unified access gateway. This is a virtual appliance. It's a hardened Linux virtual appliance. It lives in your DMZ. And what it does is allow the Horizon client or the web browsers to connect into the Horizon connection server securely, and then brokers all of the traffic for your published apps or desktop through the access gateway. It's essentially a reverse proxy that lives in your DMZ and provides access externally to your resources. As we dig a little deeper to the Horizon on-prem, you'll see the different components that I talked about. So we'll start in the middle and kind of build our way out. At the middle, you see a connection server. This is the core of VMware Horizon, and you see that everything is kind of linked off of this connection server. To the right of that is a cloud connector or an edge gateway. So there's two different varieties of Horizon Cloud. There's a version 1 and then something that VMware calls next gen. So two different types of appliances, but either one of these is essentially going to connect your connection server out to Horizon Cloud for management. So that cloud connector or edge gateway, those are used to connect up to Horizon Cloud to make your on-prem Horizon infrastructure manageable through the Horizon Cloud management tools. To the left, you see the Unified Access Gateway. Again, that's the hardened Linux appliance. It's going to live in the DMZ and provide external access. To the left of that, you see Workspace ONE Access. So Workspace ONE, we'll stop for just a minute, is another suite of products from VMware. It also lives in the EUC space. And in particular, Workspace ONE Access is an identity provider. So we couple Workspace ONE Access with VMware Horizon to provide single sign-on, the ability to use services like Azure AD and Okta or Ping, SAML identity providers, where you can provide single sign-on to the users and connect them with all the different published apps and desktops that you have in your farm. Now, to the right of the VMware Horizon gray box, you see a couple other products. So you see applications. It's VMware App Volumes is the application management software that comes with VMware Horizon. App volumes is the ability for you to package applications and then deliver them separate from your base images. So when you publish a desktop from VMware Horizon, you have to start with a base OS image, either Linux or Windows, and then you layer on your applications. VMware recommends using app volumes or ThinApp. You also see ThinApp on the far left bottom. Two different packaging technologies to help you wrap your applications and make them independent of that OS image. Now, why would you want to do that? Primary reason is to make it easier to maintain and patch your base image, to cut down on conflicts, and also increase density or the number of users that you can pack on into a Horizon farm. So less servers, less RAM, less processing by using app packaging. A lot of times when we're talking about published desktops and things, we get into a concept of either a persistent or a non-persistent desktop. Now, what does that mean? So a persistent desktop is just like your laptop today. All of your files, all of your data, all of your settings is stored right there on the hard drive. Well, a non-persistent desktop works a little differently in a VDI solution like Horizon. What we do there is we try to take that OS image and we layer the application separately. We also layer all of the user data and settings separately. So using a product called Dynamic Environment Manager, also part of the Horizon product, you're able to capture those IT and user profile settings and store them separate from the OS image. Now, by doing that, that means you can take a single OS image, spin it out into a farm of hundreds of servers, and when you need to patch that, you don't patch all 100 of the servers, you patch the one golden master image, you seal that, and then you update the 100 linked from there. And so when you do that, you don't want to have persistent data sitting in it because it's going to lose that information. So you want to be able to break that apart from the image, not store the data there, store it in a separate location so that when your user logs in, they get the same user experience every time. And it's transparent to them that you're storing their settings and their data off on another location. It's also transparent to them that their applications aren't actually installed on this OS image. All of these things allow you more operational efficiency and simplicity when it comes to updates and packaging and, rolling out updates or rolling back updates to an earlier version if there's a bug. So that's the Horizon environment at a very high level. I didn't really talk about it, but in the bottom middle, you see Windows 10 instant clones, Linux clones, Windows 10 3D desktops. And one of the really big use cases that we run into with customers is using Horizon to deliver things like engineering applications. So things that need lots of RAM, lots of computing power, and it may need to be very close to the data. So it needs to live in the data center. These 3D type applications may benefit from GPUs. And so Horizon can provide all of those features, getting very close to the data, lots of power because it's running on server hardware, where we can have extra heat and we can have extra fan noise in a data center because that's expected. And then you deliver this really great user experience for intensive graphical applications like CAD and design applications. So we do a lot of published desktops for engineering companies. Another place that we use a lot of published desktops is also in healthcare. So Windows 10 Instant Clones is a great technology where we can stamp out hundreds and hundreds of desktops for large healthcare organizations. The added benefit there is that a lot of healthcare organizations want the ability for a nurse or a doctor to walk into a room, tap their card, get their desktop and their electronic medical records instantly, and continue working, and then move to the next room and then tap their card and resume that session and have that session follow them from room to room, patient to patient, to provide a great user experience for the doctor and nurse, but also for the patient. It's a time-saving effort to be able to do tap and go and things like that. That's powered by infrastructure on the back end like VMware Horizon. It allows that seamless movement of a clinician throughout a facility. So this is Horizon on-prem. Again, we'll recap real quick, going through the components. At the core, you have a connection server. For outside access, you have the Unified Access Gateway. For connection and management from the cloud, from the VMware Cloud Management Services, you have a cloud connector or an edge gateway. Below that, you have your pool of virtual desktops, different types of pools. You can have Linux or Windows. And then you also have published RDS desktops and apps. Difference here is instead of a Windows 10 operating system, you're using a Windows Server operating system to provide the remote desktop and also the published apps. And then around it, you have enabling technologies, app volumes, ThinApp, and Dynamic Environment Manager. All of these solutions are meant to solve either app packaging or profile and setting packaging so that you can provide a seamless user experience that looks and acts like a traditional desktop or laptop, but allows the IT department to have better operational methods to update and patch the user environment, the images, the applications. And then also you have Workspace ONE Access, and this is the identity layer. It works in conjunction with the Unified Access Gateway to provide a central point for all your applications, both in Horizon, also in Citrix, and in SaaS as a app store if you want to for your users. Now, cloud managed is a little bit different. And the biggest difference is that some of these things that we talked about get offloaded to VMware. They provide them as cloud hosted services. So inside of the Horizon control plane, you have the identity management. So we talked about this, synonymous with Workspace ONE Access. You have the image management, which is part of the connection server in the on-prem. You have lifecycle management, also part of the connection server. You have the brokering, which is another major part of the connection server. You have application management from app volumes or ThinApp. And then you also have the licensing and monitoring. So this is an additional piece that you get from the cloud management. You get centralized monitoring across all of your different Horizon environments. And so for larger customers, this is a nice thing because they roll up all of the individual environments. So it's easier to know what's going on across your entire enterprise. We call this, and then above that, you see the Horizon Universal Console. And this is the management user interface for all of these different control plane services that live in the cloud hosted by VMware. So it's a simplified way of deploying Horizon. You still do require some things on your on-prem or in the public cloud to provide access to Horizon environments. So you still need your virtual desktop agents. You need your remote desktop servers running the agent. You need a thin edge infrastructure, so that user unified access gateway. You also need that cloud connector or edge VM appliance to connect back to the cloud services. So there are still pieces you have to maintain close to where you're hosting the application servers and the applications that are being delivered out. But again, you do get to offload some of that lifecycle and management and hosting of those services when you use the cloud managed services like Horizon on Azure. But it's also important to note that you don't have to use Horizon on Azure in order to benefit from the cloud management. You can also do this, and it's entitled with your Horizon Universal subscriptions. You can use this with your on-prem. So you do have choices when you're hosting and making architectural designs for a Horizon environment. Do you want to host these services, or would you like VMware to host these services? And so it does change your design a little bit. So this is another view of the same thing. So we went through these different components. So your broker component is the connection server. Your identity is Workspace ONE Access. Your external access comes through the unified access gateway. Your app management through app volumes. Your delivery is going to be your desktop pools and your remote desktop server apps and pools. You do have the optional cloud integration, the cloud connector, and then your profiles are in DEM. When you're doing cloud managed, you can see a lot of those things get collapsed into the Horizon Cloud, the Horizon control plane. The one thing that you still do need to have is your unified access gateway and cloud connectors, along with your desktop pools and RDS servers, wherever you happen to be running them. That can be in a hyperscale cloud, that can be on-prem in a co-location, it can be with a managed service provider like XenTegra, it can be with things like AWS Workspace's core or Azure Virtual Desktops, providing the backend desktops. So again, provides you a lot of choice. Now, what we just went over in terms of a on-prem Horizon environment or a Horizon cloud environment, it's referred to as something called a Horizon pod. And there's another concept called a Horizon block. Now, those things are used for scale, continuity, and resiliency. So everything that we talked about is a singular site. As we talk about pods and blocks, we're starting to scale beyond that. So within a block, you can have multiple desktop pools hosted on different, possibly multiple vSphere clusters, all controlled by a vCenter. So when we talk about a block, the boundary is really around a vCenter. You can see that a connection server or a pool of connection servers can be used to manage multiple resource blocks. So again, the vCenter becomes the boundary as you scale out. A single set of connection servers can connect to resources in multiple different vCenters, multiple different data centers. And again, you can do different types of pools to host different types of applications and desktops. So in this illustration, we've got a block that's got two desktop pools, a block that's got both a desktop pool and an application pool, and then a block that's just providing applications. So the same connection servers with a centralized set of database servers can provide access across multiple different environments, data centers. And again, we use a vCenter as the delineation of a block. Now, when you've got multiple blocks here and a set of connection servers, this is a pod. And so, go back. The pod is used as a larger grouping of resources. So you can have multiple pods in different cloud providers, in different physical locations, in different regions of the world. And that provides you with resiliency and access to have high availability services, business continuity, and generally just DR type solutions. So the pod is the largest grouping of Horizon environment, and in situations where there are multiple pods, that's used for DR, it's used for different hyperscale cloud providers, different data center locations. The recommendation is to use different pods when multiple data centers are involved. Use pods if you want to split a data center across a campus. We have some customers that do metro clustering and things like that at the vSphere layer, but they want resiliency and the ability to survive an outage, like maybe a power outage in one building of the campus. So they use pods to delineate virtual desktops in each of those physical locations. A single pod can support up to 20,000 sessions, although we recommend only 10,000. You use more pods to scale beyond those high-end recommendations. You also use separate pods when there's security or isolation needed between different user groups. And again, lastly, I mentioned it before, for DR and high availability designs, you can do active-active or active-passive designs with different pods. As we talked about before, a block is a scalable construct within a pod. Each block is on a dedicated vCenter, or it doesn't have to be a dedicated vCenter, but that is recommended. But the vCenter server becomes the boundary for a block. You can have multiple clusters running in a block because vCenter can support multiple clusters. There are two perspectives to consider when you're designing a Horizon block. From a resource perspective, the block is designed to provide predictable performance and allow the Horizon environment to be expanded within a Horizon pod as your business grows. From a availability perspective, the Horizon block is designed for risk tolerance. So you want to minimize the risk of a potential component causing a total outage. Each block provides a failure domain with a subset of the resources. It also minimizes the impact during maintenance windows for your Horizon environment. Your block design should consider the following things. You need to think about the use cases for your Horizon blocks, and then each block is going to need its own vCenter. As we've transitioned to subscription services, this is not a big deal because modern packages for Horizon subscriptions include the ability to run as many vCenter servers as you need. So you don't have to license those independently as you did in the past. It's part of the subscription entitlements. And so you get some more flexibility in terms of creating the best design for your use case. Horizon block resources should be predictable. So, I mean, what we're really saying there is you should do a sizing exercise. You should think about what you're going to host, what its requirements are, how much compute, how much storage, how much RAM are you going to need to be able to host that? And you have to think about, what are your number of concurrent users? Each block's designed to support a maximum of 4,000 users. The recommendation is to not exceed 2,000. And the reason for that is if you have two blocks supporting 2,000 users and you have a failover, well, there are 4,000 users now on the block, which is the true maximum. So as you design things, if you've got a single block, you could certainly go up to 4,000 users, but in high availability designs, you want to take that number and only do half of it. Dedicated blocks can be used for placement of specific things. So you can do a block just for desktop VMs, one just for server VMs. There's no licensing implications there from a VMware perspective because you are licensing based on number of users, named users, concurrent users, those kinds of things. But you may run into licensing constraints for things like Microsoft Windows. So you may want to license Windows Data Center in one set of infrastructure, and you may want to do Windows 10 in another set of infrastructure because of the licensing implications from Microsoft. So the next concept is something called a cloud pod. Cloud pods make Horizon really scalable because it joins multiple Horizon pods together into a federation. and then it shares information across those. So now you've got multiple pods where apologies for that. I'm going to reshare and get started. My Zoom just dropped. All right. So real quickly, we will recover Cloud Pods. Cloud Pods make Horizon truly scalable. It takes and joins together multiple pods into a federation. It's across multiple geographies. So there are a couple concepts here. One concept is the global entitlement. This is the way that you entitle users and groups. It's not very different than what you would do in a single connection server, except that it expands across multiple geographies. You can use different pods to inform those entitlements, and it can contain both desktop pools and remote desktop server pools. You have a home site concept. So when we're talking about geographic boundaries across large distances, like this illustration between New York and London, the home site is assigned on a user or group basis, and it's going to basically be where the user should connect if available. And when they connect to that one and it becomes unavailable, at that point, a London user would then be able to connect to resources in New York. But this keeps the connectivity and the round trip time to the resources as low as possible by giving them a home site that is closer to their region. You also have a scope policy. So this is the ability to look across multiple pods and then apply policies based on certain scopes. So it can be pod specific, or it can be site specific, or it can apply to any pod in your cloud pod architecture. So some maximums or recommended maximums that we have here. So overall, Horizon can scale up to 250,000 total sessions. You can have up to 50 pods in a Horizon environment. Each one of those pods can support up to 50,000 sessions. And then, or excuse me, 10,000 sessions. I can read today. You can have up to 15 different sites within a Horizon environment and up to 350 connection servers for redundancy within different regions. So scalability on-prem. The connection server provides these following management functions. So it authenticates users. It's used to entitle users to specific desktops and pools. It's used for managing remote desktop and application sessions, so you can see who's using what at any given time. You can disconnect users if they're in a hung session or if they've had an application crash and their session not work. It's also used to secure connections between users and the remote desktops and apps that they're connecting to. It can be used for single sign-on, and it's also used to set and apply policies. Policies like you can't connect this type of USB device. You're not allowed to print. You're not allowed to copy and paste. Those security policies are important when you're talking about remote workforces or potentially contractors that are outsourced outside of your organization. So every connection server has a maximum of 4,000 connections. And when it's tunneling connections, meaning when it's handling the connection to the backend resource, you want to decrease that to 2,000 connections on a single server. VMware recommends that you have multiple connection servers and that they be load balanced. What's not included here is a load balancer. There is no built-in way to load balance with Horizon. You have to bring your own type of load balancer in order to have multiple connection servers. But once you have a load balancer configured in front of it, between the clients and the connection servers, then the connection servers do all share a database. And so it is able to share across all of those different connection servers with persistence. Now, vCenter scale. A vCenter can support up to 20,000 instant clone VMs. Well, what's an instant clone? So when we talk about the imaging technology, you take a base image of Windows 10, for instance, and you need 1,000 copies of that image for your users to access their applications. Instant clones are the ability to leverage quick clone technology at the vSphere layer to make copies of that golden master image rapidly. So instant clones prepares the image and then essentially uses snapshots to be able to clone out multiple copies really quickly. It's one of the benefits of running Horizon because it allows you to quickly make updates and deploy those out at mass scale. So if you had a 0-day vulnerability for Windows 10 and you needed to get it out to all 20,000 of your instant clones, you could do that in a single management motion inside of Horizon, rather than having to push and check and see if the operating system received the update. Did it install correctly? Did it fail? Do I need to do remediation? You do it in one image, and then you mass update all of the clones. Now, it's not the only way that you can make clones inside of Horizon. We also have the ability to do full clones, and that makes a full copy of the entire virtual disk and all of the settings for each one of the VMs. So vCenter can support only 4,000 full clone VMs, so much lower from a scale perspective. Horizon's really built, optimized to use non-persistent desktops and instant clone technology to help you rapidly scale and deliver applications to your users. That's why you see much larger support for the instant clone technology. Let's talk a little bit about authentication. And identity services are largely supplied by Workspace ONE Access. As we talked about, Workspace ONE is another brand name inside of the VMware portfolio. There is another large suite called Workspace ONE Unified Endpoint Management. We're not talking about that today, but we do have another workshop that focuses on UEM. But Workspace ONE Access is a product that's shared both by UEM and by Horizon, because VMware realized that we needed a point of integration for SAML authentication or identity across their suite of EUC products. So Workspace ONE Access is a broker to other identity stores. So Active Directory, Azure AD, Active Directory Federation Services. And by the way, Azure AD has been rebranded as Entra by Microsoft. So if you see Microsoft Entra, that is what we used to know as Azure Active Directory, but also third parties like Okta and Ping. Identity management is a key component to zero trust network access. So you hear a lot in the industry talking about zero trust. That's the idea that no one gets unbridled access to your network without proving that they're trustworthy. So even if it's a corporate laptop, even if it's a corporate user, there's no trust established until it's proven. So identity is a cornerstone of that. So we layer on things like conditional access and multi-factor authentication so that The user has to prove that I am actually Phil Sellers coming in, because I know Phil's password, but then I also get an alert to Phil's phone where I click accept. And that second factor authentication allows IT to know that it's not just someone who happened to find my password somewhere, but it's also someone that's physically in control of my phone. And so it reduces the ability for malicious folks to get and break into your network, because now you have multiple steps to authenticate. The second concept is conditional access, and that means we can add conditions before a connection can be made. So one condition may be that it has to be a corporate laptop. And so for it to be a corporate laptop and it's me and I have this right, well, now I'm always forced to have multi-factor. Or it may be I'm on a personal device and I'm me, so I have to have multi-factor all the time. Or I have to restrict access. Maybe certain applications can't be accessed from my personal devices, but can only be accessed from corporate devices. Conditional access gives IT administrators the way to write rules and conditions for those different scenarios and lock down access to resources. And of course, at the corner of identity is single sign-on, making it easy once a user has proven who they are to get access to other resources. In modern applications like Microsoft 365, most of your web applications, most of your SaaS applications, you have this concept. And once you sign in, you can get into any of the different resources, whether it's an HR system, your expense system, maybe it's your Office, maybe your OneDrive with all of your files, all from the same identity. When you think about single sign-on, one of the other places you see it in your regular life is through third-party authentication. A lot of services and things that you use today allow you to log in using your Google account. That's single sign-on. So that particular software doesn't necessarily have access to Google, but through using the Google identity integration, they can provide access to their service with your Google username and password. That password never gets transmitted to the third party. That third party never knows your information, but they trust Google in that identity to be able to give you access seamlessly to their software. You see this across the board. Microsoft, Apple, and Google all have different identity things that common platforms are integrating against, so that you don't have to have a separate password everywhere you have an account. Workspace ONE Access can give you the same capability for your internal corporate users. So this is going to be the integration point for Horizon, as well as potentially for Workspace ONE Unified Endpoint Management, if you choose to license that as well. External access, excuse me. External access, we talked about, is provided through the Unified Access Gateway. Just like the Horizon connection servers, VMware recommends a high availability configuration with at least 2 access gateways load balanced. So what does that look like? We have an illustration here. The external users come into a load balancer. 2 or more access gateways live behind that load balancer. And then those access gateways are tied against connection servers. For internal users, as we talked about before, the recommendation is to have multiple connection servers. So again, there's an internal load balancer that brokers connections for internal users to the connection servers directly. From a protocol and network ports perspective, it's pretty simple. Horizon uses 3 different protocols as an option. Generally, customers turn on one or the other. There may be reasons why you need 2, but most of my customers, most configurations We tend to use Blast Extreme, which is a VMware developed protocol. It runs on TCP port number 22443. Optionally, it can run on UDP as well. Users would use UDP to make it a faster connection, particularly on long distances where there's high latency. That's one of the reasons you would turn on the UDP, because it just streams the data constantly and doesn't check to make sure it got there. So again, it can use both TCP or UDP. PC over IP is a third-party protocol. It's been in the Horizon platform for a really long time. It was developed by a company called Teradici. Teradici made chips inside of thin clients, and PC over IP was their protocol. So still supported in Horizon for backwards compatibility to a lot of older thin clients with the Teradici chipset. If you're not using that, then Blast Extreme is probably a better option. But again, it is still supported. You can also use old school RDP, Microsoft's native protocol for connecting to remote desktop, supported both on servers and it's also supported on desktops. It runs on TCP port number 3389. For external connections, the Unified Access Gateway fronts or encapsulates all of those protocols. So Blast Extreme gets encapsulated into 8443 or into 443. RDP runs over 443, but PC over IP, interestingly, continues to run on its native port. So again, the Unified Access Gateway inserts itself. It's a reverse proxy, and so it rewrites the traffic for Blast Extreme to run over 8443 or 443. From a Unified Access Gateway standpoint, there's not a one-to-one mapping with the connection servers. So a UAG can connect to any one of the back-end connection servers. You can do load balancing in front of them. So you see the illustration here with the design for both internal and external users, both hitting an internal load balancer after it flows through the UAG. You can scale UAGs and connection servers independently. There are other types of authentication that you could do, include smart cards and RSA secure IDs, Radius, but most deployments at this point are using SAML authentication, modern cloud-based authentication. Workspace ONE Access comes in a couple different ways, a couple different packages. You can either use a on-premises version, which is deployed as a virtual appliance, one or more, or you can use a cloud-based version of Workspace ONE Access hosted in the Horizon control plane. Workspace ONE on-prem, you deploy the virtual appliance, and then once it's stood up, you will connect it to some source of authentication and accounts. So generally Active Directory in most environments. And then it also has a outbound connection to be able to connect into other appliances, excuse me, sorry. So the Workspace ONE Access connector is used as a scalable component to get information into Workspace ONE into the core appliance. It can access a number of different resources, not just identity, but also DNS, connection to the Horizon, connection to Citrix, connection to the RSA secure ID environment. It basically provides access directly from Workspace ONE Access to all of these internal resources. Workspace ONE Access appliance generally lives in some sort of a DMZ. Closer to the access gateway. It can be fronted by the Unified Access Gateway as well. And then there is a centralized database so that you can scale out multiple appliances and load balance those. Cloud-based is a little more simplified. all of the scale, all of the load balancing, all of those things are handled by VMware on your behalf. You have a Workspace ONE Access connector that lives in your on-prem environment or in your cloud provider. If you're doing like a VMC on AWS, it connects to your AD controllers and other resources, and then provides access back out to the Workspace ONE Access SaaS tenant. As you can see, it kind of follows the same situation as the others. It simplifies the deployment for Workspace ONE Access the same way that cloud managed Horizon simplifies the management layer for Horizon. So now we want to walk through just a little bit of the admin and the admin UI. So here's a screenshot on the right. You can kind of see the different components, but largely it's 3 or 4 major areas here. You've got a monitoring section, you've got your users and groups, then you have your inventory of resources, so your desktops, your applications, farms, machines, all of that kind of thing. And then lastly, you've got some settings and policies for the entire environment. When you first log into the admin console, you're going to be prompted by the monitoring tab in the dashboard. This is a great heads up display to kind of see how much of the resources you've got, how many sessions you've got running, how many hosts are there. And then on the right side, you've got a great panel that shows you the connection status or the status across all of your different hosts, all of your different vCenter connected or RDS connected hosts in the environment. And so you can see, are there any that have disconnected sessions that are sitting in an error state? All of those metrics are clickable, so you can go directly to a search screen with all of the errored problem machines. It's great from a troubleshooting standpoint. Also on the left-hand menu, you've got not only the dashboard, your default view, but you've also got the ability to go into a sessions and look at individual sessions and see what's going on, how are things running, troubleshoot, disconnect, all of those kind of functions for a user. So again, we talked about these different sections. At a high level, you've got monitoring, you've got users and groups, inventory, your settings, and I forgot one. You got a dedicated troubleshooting. This is for support cases for the Horizon platform. So it's not a place for you to go troubleshoot user problems. That's actually going to be underneath monitor. This is for troubleshooting problems with the Horizon platform itself. So if you spin up a support case with VMware, likely they'll guide you through creating log bundles here for troubleshooting. So let's talk a little more about the inventory. So the inventory split up across multiple different things. You have desktops, you have applications, you have farms. Those are the 3 big constructs. So under desktops, this is going to be where you publish something with a start bar, a Windows application with the full desktop, icons, everything. Under applications, this is where you're going to publish an individual application where it looks seamless to the user when delivered. There's not going to be any desktop, there's not going to be any icons, there's not going to be a start bar, there's no application menus, or excuse me, there's no start menus. It's just the core application. So it looks like Outlook is running natively on my Mac, Windows-based Outlook is running natively on my Mac, side by side with my native Mac applications. Farms is the construct of creating bigger, larger groups of the same desktop image. So this is where we get into creating large farms created from a central image. This is where you get all of your workflows to be able to update different things, different images, different patches within a farm. Again, you take and choose a master image, you take a snapshot of that image, and then all of the derivative VMs in that farm are made off of that same snapshot. Not all machines inside of a managed Horizon environment have to be a part of a farm. There are two types of farms: automated, which uses instant clone or full clone technology to replicate that master image. But you can also have manual farms. Manual farms are going to maybe be used for physical desktops with the Horizon agent running on them to be connected in and delivered through Horizon. It may be used for one-off or persistent desktops that are created outside of the Horizon environment altogether. The machines view is going to allow you to see all of the different machines, regardless of whether they were created as a farm, manually attached, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to allow you to manage all the machines in the VMs, all VMs in vCenter or physical RDS servers that are connected to a Horizon connection server or the Horizon manager. So this is where you can go in and search for any endpoint, see what's going on with it, get some additional information. The Horizon agent tab here underneath inventory is a location where you can push out automatic updates for the Horizon agents if that's enabled and allowed within the environment. So what are your different types of delivery resources? Again, desktop pools deliver full desktop interfaces from either a remote desktop server or a desktop OS. Application pools deliver a single application, and there can be multiple applications delivered from the same pool, but it delivers a application from a host or desktop pool. You do have individual applications that are configured to be delivered and titled separately, even if they come from the same farm. Farms are used to simplify the tasks of managing these hosts and desktops. This is the central point of automation. You use automated farms from a snapshot to create a VM and be able to update that. It lets you scale a farm larger and faster within minutes rather than hours of having to manually create each one of these and manage them like you manage physical endpoints. It provides the way to do the master image, snapshot it, update all the VMs in the farm with a new snapshot so you don't have to patch them individually. Users and groups provides the ability to entitle an individual user or an Active Directory group to a particular desktop resource. You may have multiple desktop resources based on different images, or you may have different mixes of applications that groups need access to. So a couple architectural changes. So since version 2012, which looks funny, it's not from the year 2012, but it was December of 2020. Horizon 8 has dropped the ability to use linked clones, which is an older version of the technology. So now you use instant clones instead. And then older versions of Horizon also had a technology known as Composer. So if you're an old-time Horizon person coming back to the platform, you may have seen the Composer. That has been eliminated from the whole suite and is no longer needed. Now, we're going to spend a couple minutes just kind of walking around through Test Drive and looking at a management user interface. I'm going to drag this right over here. And hopefully you can see the screen. So this is VMware Test Drive. It is a free resource, and so somewhere that you can go out and also get to play with the Horizon environment. So I've logged in here to Test Drive, and it gives me a really secure password. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to launch in to my Horizon environment. So you'll notice that there's two different ways that we can do it. We can either download the native client, or we can use web access. So for today, I'm going to use web access. We'll log into the Horizon interface. So this is the standard end user interface. And you can see all of these different desktops are published to me that I can launch into. All of these are published applications. So what does the difference look like? Let's start with a published application. We're going to run this. It's going to open the published application here in the browser. So I'm not using a Horizon client. I'm just using the Horizon web interface. And so now it's connecting me to a back end and trying to launch Notepad++. To the left, you'll see that I have all of these different things. Well, looks like there is a problem with that application and it's not working. So let's do this. Let's do RDSH. So we'll try a different application. All right, so beauty of live demos, this is not working. All right, so we're having problems in the test drive. Let's switch over and take a look here at the admin interface. All right, that's not working either. Let's see. All right, so we will launch into a Windows 11 environment. All right, so now I have a Windows 11 environment. It's asking if it can go into full screen. I'm going to tell it no. And as soon as our desktop loads, we should be able to launch into the Horizon admin. So with this being a published desktop, what you'll see is the full desktop icons, everything on the screen, along with the start bar at the bottom as soon as it loads. And there's your handy dandy Windows 11 start bar. I'm going to go ahead, launch into the Horizon console. This will be the admin. It'll load in a web browser. Paste in our password, log in. All right, so now here we are. What's great about Test Drive is that you do have active sessions, other users, other people around the world using the environment. So you do get good information on the dashboard. You can see the number of idle VDI sessions. There's one active. And if we click on this, I'll bet this active session is ours. So we can click over here on the connected and ready. You can see who all is there, and there is my session right there to DS004 VDI. From the dashboard, you can also see any system health issues here at the top. You can see detected unrecognized requests coming in through the gateway services. You can see this connection server has an issue, unrecognized requests. So This may be someone trying to hack or test for vulnerabilities against the environment. You can see overall how much free space do you have in your environment, how many sessions you have running, disconnected, idle, etc. You can go through and look at the events from your event log, all the different things that have happened at the Horizon management layer. Sessions is the same sort of thing that you get if you click on the dashboard and use one of these links to the right. You also either go to sessions or to your machine search so that you can find other things. So if you have a user that is having problems, you could check them, disconnect or log off the session. If you've got a problem host, you could restart that desktop or restart that virtual machine. You also have the ability to send a message to a user like, hey, I'm going to be rebooting this farm because of maintenance or because we need to do an update urgently. You can send those here from the admin console. There is a dedicated help desk tool and help desk role that can be assigned here from the connection server for your support desk. So we can come in and we can look for a particular user. I'll look for myself, come up and search, and then you can see I've got a couple different things. I had an application that we launched at 12:20, and then this desktop that I'm running in currently connected versus disconnected. How long is the session duration? What desktops are available? What applications are available to me? What activities have I done? So you can look at all of these, sort and filter so that your support desk can help the user in real time without needing to escalate cases to higher level technicians. From a users and groups standpoint, the primary focus here is entitlements. So you can take and figure out who has entitlements to what based on different group permissions. You can look at individual users and what desktop or application entitlements they have. This is a group. This particular group, when it loads, it'll show a lot of entitlements and sessions. You can use this for easier troubleshooting of different entitlements across the farm. It's taking a minute to load. You can also look at remote access and unauthenticated user access. So surprisingly, Horizon can be used to publish out desktops without asking the user to log in. That may be useful for demo environments or for trade shows or kiosks and things like that that may need access to a particular application, but you don't want to have to lock it down with username and password. I would say that the use cases are probably pretty limited, but it is a capability. We talked about the inventory. So inside of the inventory here, we can look at different types of desktop pools. So you can see an automated desktop pool. This is going to be a Windows desktop operating system where it's using vCenter and instant clones. You have the concept of a floating assignment, meaning you don't have a user directly assigned to a virtual machine. You allow the user to float between different virtual machines when they log in. This is a concept with the non-persistent desktop. So with floating assignment, you also want to have that user data separated and possibly the application separated from the base master image. You have manual desktop pools in here. You also have remote desktop pools. So this is server-based operating systems. It's going to have, published apps or published desktops. You can use pools for both, and it's just a matter of configuration. So these are all the different desktop pools. If we click into one, you get all of the settings for the pool. Each pool can have its own naming scheme to fit what you want inside of vCenter. You can see which vCenter it's connected to, what organizational unit is it going to be spun up with from a Active Directory integration standpoint, and how much storage are you consuming? All of the settings are here at the pool level. Once you've spun up copies, you can see those machines in the machine view. You can also get into additional details specific to instant clones here in the Machines Instant Clone Details tab. You can see any active sessions, and of course I chose one that has none right now, but you can also see who's entitled, what groups are entitled, or what individual users are entitled to a group. And then you can see the policies that are set across this pool and any policy overrides. So if you happen to have a policy, but you need an executive to have an override and be able to copy and paste, you can do that individually against the pool with the policies here. Just like your desktops, you can also have application pools. So both desktops and application pools use farms of servers. And so you will see the pool or farm here on the right side. This is 7-zip, an application. You can see that it is version 2201. It is a published app on demand. Now that means that it is coming from the app volumes piece that we talked about. So the application is packaged separately from the image of the actual server it will run on. And so with a published app on demand, you take I'll call it a naked image without any applications installed into Windows. It launches in Horizon, and then when I click on the 7-zip, it pulls in the 7-zip application and loads it into that session. So 7-zip's not actually installed in that Windows image, but on demand, it pulls it in and allows it to run in real time without delay. So published apps on demands allows you to more granularly control and target applications. So you may have software savings by not giving every user access to an application. It allows you to also manage applications individually. So if 7-zip version 22.02 comes out, you can go to App Volume Managers, you load up the image, you install the update, you click the complete button, and it repackages 2202, and then you can push it out to all of your users. That doesn't require a reboot, doesn't require a re-image of the desktop pools that the app on demand is running on. It's just the next time it gets launched, the new version will be attached and all users get access to it. In the same vein, if 2202 is buggy and you start getting trouble calls and you need to roll back to 2201, that package is still in app volumes. So you can just retarget by simply clicking a make current button inside of apps on demand, and it'll roll back and 2201 will be pushed back out to the farm. It makes rollback and roll forward significantly easier. Applications directly integrate here in the applications pool. So once you've connected app volumes, you can click the add button, add from app volumes manager, pulls an inventory of all the applications and allows you to target those out and entitle them directly in Horizon. So you don't have to manage this entitlement in two different places. It's all completely integrated here. So just like with your desktop pools and app pools, you can see who's entitled. You can see any events related to this particular application pool. So you can see full audits. Inside of farms, this is a little different. So what's the difference between desktop pool and a farm? Well, a desktop pool is going to be directly related to this little icon on the user side. So these are all represented as desktop pools. So these are the icons that you click to launch into a desktop. It has an entitlement associated with it. Behind that entitlement is a machine or a farm of machines, and that's where farms come in. So farms and pools are used both by apps and desktops. And so this represents, where you actually go to do the instant clone, the updates, the number of connections. and all of those things related to remote desktop servers. Now, desktop pools can also have instant clones. So it is a little different. When we're talking farms, we're talking exclusively the Windows Server operating systems, RDSH. App pools can run on either. They can run on a desktop pool or they can run on an RDSH farm. Just like your desktop pools that we looked at, you can have naming schemes. You can look at load balancing, how long before requests, what OU should it be connected to, what storage should I use, what golden master image. So just like desktop pools, farms can be life cycled and updated after they've been created. Inside of the machine view, again, you can look here and see all of your vCenter controlled VMs. You can also see physical RDSH servers or virtual RDSH servers. And then you also have others. So you can connect physical machines running the Horizon agent here as well. Persistent disks are the ability to create persistent volumes that have other applications installed, things like that for additional use cases inside of Horizon. So you can see all the attached or detached persistent disks. In this demo environment, there are no persistent disks. Under settings, you have your high-level server settings. You can see your vCenters, your UAGs, your connection servers in the farm. You can manage certificates. You can also see that app volume manager that we're using. Under domains, this is where you link in your authentication against your Active Directory domain. These are all of the different settings that you do for connecting multiple domains. Possibly you have two here in this demo environment. You've got ZUB and VMWDP. Your product licensing is here. This is where you update your term licensing over time. Now that everything is gone subscription, this is something that you'll have to do periodically. You have your global settings. These are all of the high level across the board settings for the environment. You can see your registered machines. And then we have cloud architecture. This is something we talked about in terms of larger scale between multiple different pods. This is where you would enable and configure that. Last place to look is your global policies. There are a few here, whether you allow USB access, multimedia redirection. This is at a global level, and you can override it in individual policies and groups. So that's the management interface. And with that, it's going to bring us back to lab time. So you should have an email in your inbox. And with that email, you can launch into the lab environment. I will take you quickly through that. So when you click the link from your email and after you log in, you'll see our workshop. You can click Take This Lab Now. It's going to launch into an environment. And it should deploy in just a few seconds. Quick overview. You've got your tools here. So you have your console actions where you can undock this window and make it a little easier to work with. You've got a virtual keyboard with some shortcuts for Control-Alt-Delete and other things. On the right side, you have your manual. So if you want to click this table of contents here, you can look through and choose your different modules. For today's lab, we'll be focusing on modules 1, 2, and 3. If you have time, you can go into module 4 and module 5, which goes into Workspace ONE Access, and module 6 for integrated single sign-on and DEM. We do another workshop that focuses specifically on DEM and app volumes, along with the Horizon Cloud Service. If you want to go through those modules, you have the rest of today to be able to do so. So you can go as far and as deep inside of the lab as you want to. This will walk you through everything. So section 1 with the appendix, it's going to show you around the environment. And then the lab overview will give you kind of a quick start. You have your controls up top. You can make this the font larger or smaller. And you can also change the side with some of these controls here. You also have the ability to pop it out and move it around the environment. It's totally up to you, fully customizable, but you have access to this for the rest of the day. So if you want, go ahead and get launched, and I will be here and available to help you. If you're watching a replay, feel free to reach out to me, Philip with 1L.sellers, SELLERS, at XenTegra.com. I'll be glad to help you get a link to the lab environment and let you try it out for yourself. So without further ado, I really appreciate everyone joining today, and I'm going to stop recording for YouTube, but I'll be here to help with the lab environment, and I do appreciate your time and attention.